Hey, welcome. We are almost live. Well, technically this is recorded and you're watching it half an hour later. So we're not going to have any Wi-Fi issues. That's the plan. It's the plan. So sorry I don't have a low-cut top on, but the information you're about to get is more important, so much more important. So first, I've had a couple of questions in on around X, Threads, wherever I am, and inside Getting Started in Crypto. Now, there's a lot of questions around the market. I'm going to address that today. But there's also the questions about the 4-year cycle, about, I bought alts. I thought I was going to get a bull run. I thought I was going to get alt season. Where's my alt season? So let's jump into that, because that's really important. It's so important, like, for what is going on in the market at the moment. So, we got told to get the top 10 cryptos, or, we see other big YouTube personalities that are going on and on and on, like, you must buy this coin, you must have this in your top 10, you must keep this in the portfolio. This is not the part of the market to have a portfolio. When Bitcoin topped at 126K, that is when, even before then, the previous top with Bitcoin, we kind of topped out on alts. We weren't seeing all those gains. They kept going down and down and down. And this is a different cycle. It's like every single cycle within Bitcoin and within the crypto market has been different, and we need to adapt as that continues. So we see new narratives replace the old ones really fast. So we've gone AI, we've gone meme coins, we've got real world assets. We've had so many different narratives running through crypto that's the alts that we buy. They're the ones that are going to make us millions. They're going to make us rich. They're going to make us, pay our mortgage off, have no more debts, whatever the narrative is running at the time. Diamond hands, I'm holding onto it forever. And I'm dying with these bags because this is, going to wipe out my loans, make my life better. I'm going to be living on an island somewhere with my, there was a wife swapping sort of narrative going on at one point that, this is wife changing money. It's like, no. Find somebody you love and keep them. You don't just get to swap up your wives because you can get a better, newer, younger model because you've got crypto. Stupid narrative. Anyway, don't get me started. So what I would start looking at, because there's a lot of people out there with some really, really heavy alt bags. Heavy. So because, if we jump into a quick chart and we look at, let's say, let me find KSM. I'm going to bring this one up. So have a look at the KSM. So KSM and DOT were two of the, 2020, 2021 best buys that you could get. And, the narrative around it was huge. It was an ETH killer. It was a Bitcoin killer. It was, going to do everything. So KSM was the test chain. DOT was the real chain. And, they had all these competitions and, narratives running around it. Was exciting. And then the team left. So, that kind of happened, and this is 2022, and Gavin left, and then this happened. So this is one of the alts. A lot of alts look like this. A lot of alts have still got development and they're still moving forward, but a lot of alts look like this because there's not a lot happening. So if you bought here, or you bought here, you've essentially lost like 80 to 90% of your bag. So, looking at this way, you've lost 100%, 99.7% if you bought at that point. So, if you thought, oh, I'm buying here and it's going to keep going up, you've still lost 99% because it just kept going down and down and down. But if you're a trader and you're buying and selling and you're like, okay, we've got a narrative where the market's turning at the moment, and we've got a little bit of momentum happening, and we saw some alts run. So had you bought at the momentum change and you sold when it hit the 200 SMA, I keep telling you guys about 100 and 200 SMAs, you would have made it 88%. Nice profit. You would have had to have patience this was from late March to May. So about 6 weeks. So you could have held those bags for 2 years. Well, 2022, that's 4 years now. 4 years, really, really heavy bags. So lost 99% of your money. Or you could be, when the market turns, when BTC, when ETH starts moving, you buy. And then the rest of the time, you just sit on your hands and you do nothing. You go and live your life. And then you go, oh, the market's moving again. I'm going to put some money back into it. 88%. So you're not chasing those profits back. You're not going, okay, I'm, revenge trading, because that's never good as well. Because if you think you're just going to get all the money back in one hit, that's not going to happen. You're going to lose it. Most people go in and they start leverage trading and getting all crazy, and then, press 100 times. Some exchanges go up to 400 times. And they just get crazy on this. And, they're like, I'm just going to make it all back in one hit. Not going to happen. Like, that's as often as winning lotto. So if you think of it as that and not as gambling, because that's what revenge trading is, it's just pure gambling. So, but if you sit on your hands, you wait for some of these coins, your favorite ones, if this is what you want, and then you just sit in your hands and you wait. Bitcoin's moving. Okay. Is my favorite coin in the same pattern? Is it moving? Is it going to make me some money at this point? If you're getting started in crypto, people ask me for charts all the time. And I let them know the levels. Then if they feel like trading those, we've got signals as well. But if they do feel like trading their favorite coin and they want a chart, they can ask in the chat and I will let them know all the levels. And then they can put their stop loss up as it moves. And that's when they start making some money. But when we're going backwards, now is not a time to be buying. I put a post up the other day that I hope all of you guys sold, because everyone's just given back all that liquidity back to the market. So if we go back, this is TON. So it almost made 157%. So from where we entered, it made 152%. But if you held it and you bought, where we had at GSIC, you would only make 65%. So essentially you've given half your profit back, or, 2/3 of your profit back. So there's other ones signals that we had. So this is only a 14% signal. But if you didn't sell or raise your stop loss into profit, you've just given all that profit back. It's come back down and it's hit the stop loss. So we've got linear, which is another signal. So it made 22%. So if you did not raise your stop loss, so I recommend keeping your stop loss fluid and moving as the trade goes. So if it's hit target 1, it's made 10%. If you're not in getting started in crypto, if it's made 10%, move your stop loss up, protect some of that profit. Yes, sometimes it comes back down and gets hit, but the majority of the time, you're going to make more money that way. So small profits all add up and they compound over time, whereas no profit or it continuing to go down past your stop loss makes zero profit. and loses you money. And then you've got really heavy bags. So we don't want to be doing that, because we can see this is another one, Jasmine, 24% below the stop loss. So, if you got to target 1, you've got 12%. You can compound 10% into 80 trades from $1,000 and get to $1 million. 25 trades from $1,000 at 10% is $10,000. In fact, getting started in crypto, we're starting a challenge very, very soon. But that's the mentality of it all. You just have to be disciplined. You need to be really disciplined with, what you're doing, how you're sort of working in this market. This market is different from all the cycles before, all of them. So you need to ask yourself, is the project still building? Does it still have liquidity and volume? Because that matters. Because if it doesn't, it's probably going to get delisted off the exchanges. So is there real adoption, or is it just surviving nostalgia? That's my favorite coin. That's one of the originals. Whatever. Does it actually have real adoption? Is it still building? Is it still doing everything that it said it would do? Is it adapting to new security? Is it doing all of this stuff? So if I had hard cash today, would I buy that coin again? So would I look at that pattern and go, with Jasmine, am I a buyer at this level? Am I, where would I buy? Would I buy KSM? Would I buy DOT? At the moment, probably not. There's not a lot of liquidity when we had a look at that chart on KSM. It's got, huge wicks on the higher time frames, which means liquidity's gone in and it's pulled out just as fast. So that last question is going to blow your mind, because it's literally sunk cost fallacy. It's literally why you get stuck holding your bags. And, it's all very, very different this cycle. So we got Bitcoin dominance, which is going up because of ETFs, institutional money, regulation, lots of regulation happening on the 1st of July. AI narratives, AI is going to kill Bitcoin, AI is going to kill crypto. So much liquidity grabs, utility fragmentation. So capital has moved differently. It's rotating differently through the market at the moment. It's different from previous cycles. It doesn't look like, we're having those big explosive alt runs that we're having. But in this last run, we've made some really good money. But remember, if you're in traditional markets, which is originally where I started, you get 1%, 3%. If you're lucky. They've had a really good run on AI over the last couple of years, but that's not how the traditional markets work. Crypto is going to start, settling down, because it needs to, because of regulations, because of institutional money. They just can't handle the volatility, and then they're just like, oh, I'm out of here. It's just too much. So, if we're looking at this in a realistic way, then if you've got heavy alt bags, I can't tell you what to do. You need to make that decision yourself. But check out 1000tomillions.com and check out 1000to10,000.com. And there's a lot of information there. Lots and lots of information there on how compounding works, how patience essentially works. And, if we're looking, we head back to the days where we used to make the Moon Mag before the market crashed and nobody wanted to pay us for articles anymore, or, anything. So that was another sunk cost fallacy that I had to go, okay, I don't have the money coming in for this anymore. I need to kill this project. It was a really good project, by the way, but, yeah, so if we have a look there's a whole heap of articles here. They're still really valid. So there's these trader perspective ones that I wrote. Should I sell my bags? Let's head in and find that. So yes, should I sell my bags? This will sort of break down that mindset around all of that. And you can make a decision after reading this. Should I sell my bags? Should I not sell my bags? What should I do? That kind of thing. So, hopefully this is not all freezing up like it always does, but that's my rant for today, and I'm going to get into BTC right now. Okay. Now, I might be frozen, but I think BTC is still going, and hopefully you can hear the volume on this. I'll check afterwards. I'm frozen. Okay. I think it's working. We hope it's working. Okay. Back. So BTC, we've had weekly close. Weekly has a bearish engulfing candle, and this candle here. It is hovering on the weekly 9 EMA. So this normally means that we will get a bounce. This could be part of, it could be a reversal. It could be part of a larger downtrend, or there's several patterns that are happening here at the moment. So if my charts want to upload today, this is the reason I'm not live, because they're just being funky and really annoying. So if we have a look here, we've got a daily support, daily resistance that comes all the way back to 2021. And we've broken down that. We've basically just held above. On the daily, the 9 and the 21 are just about to cross. So we need to either, get back to that point, or BTC's potentially dipping down. So larger pattern, we are looking several different options. We could have had a very shallow A wave, a B, and a C. So that's a very, very valid pattern at the moment, and could mean correction's over. Now, if correction's over, we're still quite bullish on, we've got hidden bullish divergence on the RSI. We also have the stock indicator on the daily about to cross. So this is a good indicator that this is about to change momentum, but don't get too excited as yet. This could be a larger pattern ABC. So we're in a 1, a 2, a 3, coming back up, retesting that daily resistance, and then down to test the 100 SMA. So that's around 74 to 76. So that would then go into a larger pattern ABC. So that would be, this would be our A wave complete, B, and then a C. Now, whether that C breaks down or continues, it helps if I put the right Elliott wave on there. So we could have an A coming up for a B and then down for a C. Now, the C might stop in the channel, or it could continue down lower. So we don't know that yet. The same as we could get a bounce here. We could, if we break through that resistance and flip that again to support. We haven't flipped that as support yet. We had a minor support, but mainly we've broken down. So when we go to the weekly time frame, we can see that there was no support testing there. It's just come down. So we ideally want to see this get back above that resistance, because then on the weekly, the 9 and the 21 EMA cross is major, is major directional change. That is when algorithms go, okay, we've got a high time frame change here, and all the bots start buying, and that's when we get sort of large momentum buys coming into the market. So we could trend this week because we've got JPY, we've got Japanese stuff, we've got FOMC, we've got, all different news and stuff coming out. That kind of pushes us into, the next, quarter, half of the year, what's going to happen, where we're going, where we're headed. So once we know that, we know if we're going down right now or we're getting a blow off top and then we're coming down. So there's several different patterns, and I've explained these over, the last few weeks. So go back through some of the charts that I've put up on X. You can go into the media tab and you can find those through there. But there's a lot of sort of stuff and different possibilities right now. But the daily with the 100 and the 100 here, 200 here, still holding. Forget that the 9 and the 21, that on the daily, not major. They sort of twist and turn, as we can see here. They twist and turn, and the weekly is the one to watch with that 9 and that 21 EMA imminently looking like they cross if we hold these levels. So as long as we don't break down through this channel, I think we're really good in, momentum wise. So a couple of different patterns. Don't, sweat the small stuff. If you are long-term on BTC, I still think there's lots of hope there for the bullish patterns. There's also some really bearish patterns, but we are mid-pattern right at the moment. So there's no directions. It's sit on your hands and wait for confirmation. Alts are bleeding down. We also have the USDT. I'm going to try and open some of these at the same time. So USDT cap having a bit of a bounce. Now this pattern here, so I've got it as an ABC, but potentially we've got one more wave to come back down. So we want to see this turn at that 100 SMA, come back down, test the 200 SMA, maybe retest that resistance at that point, and then come back down. And that is where we'll correlate with BTC as well. So that should be our next move up with BTC, provided this continues to come down. We do look like we're getting a little bit of curl on the SMA at the moment. So Bitcoin dominance here has, like I said last week, hit that channel. It's deciding whether it wants to go back into the channel at the moment. I did say there would be a pull-out back once it rejected. It had a minor rejection. We've seen that pullback. It's not been a massive pullback for BTC. Alts have bled out, but alts are, I think I've explained this before, and the reason alts are called shitcoin is because they're like diarrhea and they can be quite explosive. So think of it like that. I know it's not a nice analogy, but that's what it is, and that's the reason they're called that. So yeah, so if you keep that in the back of your mind, you're just going to keep selling. It's like you don't want to go into the diarrhea phase of the shit coins. So, and that's where we are at the moment. They're moving. DXY. So DXY has had a minor pullback on open. We want that to continue to pull back. We're seeing lots of talks at the moment with China, with everyone. So we don't want that moving. We want this pulling back. And that's going to keep everything sort of, moving nicely. So Ethereum, now it had a huge dip. I do think it's got one more tiny wave to finish either this C wave. So that might come back down to the 786, which is about 2050-ish. Hopefully this all catches up, this recording. It's all like jamming up. So if we have a look at this, we've got two patterns, A, B, C, or we've got a larger downtrend pattern. Now, if this C wave has finished, we might have one tiny more wave, taking us down to the 786, which is 2050, or we could be continuing up from here, up. So that's our bullish momentum pattern, possibly one more wave down first, a couple of days sideways. Bad news with the JPY, market goes down, good news comes in, market goes up. Okay, so that's kind of how we're looking for this week and next. And if a market doesn't get that good news, market gets to this point where we've got a fourth wave, where we've got to about 2,250, 60-ish on Ethereum, and then the market's got some really bad news, and Ethereum's like, I'm out of here, and it comes back down. And that's when we could see sort of 1,800, 1,600 Ethereum bargain for the next run. So we're coming to the end, the final stages of this bearish market. The 4-year cycle sort of comes to a halt around October, November. So November 2022 was the FTX crash. Flash forward 4 years later, cycle, that's the bottom around sort of October, November. Could even push out to December, who knows, but it's around that cycle period. So we've got about 5 more months of sideways, up, down, slow, wipe out all the profits, that sort of stuff. So this time is where you need to start, like, thank you for the profits, I'm out of here, I'm on to the next trade. 10%, thank you, okay. Compounding. Head to those websites, 1000tomillions.com, 1000to10,000.com. Look at those theories, read them, educate yourself, make some money in the market. Maybe sell all those heavy bags. I don't know. Maybe hold them if they're good coins, hold them if they're building. Don't know. But that's going to be some decisions that you guys need to make right now. So I'm just going to see if I can get this onto a higher time frame, because we did see one of the ugliest candles we've seen in the market for ETH at the moment. So, and this is like exceptionally bearish candle, but we didn't really break down on that. We hit the support, and we've so far bounced. So that's another good sign. Doesn't mean that it's going to go up or down, but you know, we have this candle, and then the next candle is red, and we've come back down. So what could happen is this fourth wave here. We come back up, we test, and that's coming back down to that 786. That could be our pattern complete. So we could be in this bearish momentum for ETH over the next couple of weeks, or it could just go straight down. Stranger things have happened, because the Ethereum Foundation have been selling massive amounts. If you follow Arkham News on X, they let you know when that's happening. They let you know when sort of the major money is moving as well. And make sure you're following whale calls for all the tether prints, so we know when the market is moving up, when the market is retracting and moving. So that's the major stuff that we need to be looking out for in this cycle, because it is vastly different to what we've seen in previous cycles. And as I've said, I've been around for all of them, and this has been a challenging cycle for even, you know, us that have been here for the whole entire time. So it's just been choppy once ETFs came in, once regulations came in, once Trump came in and him and his family sort of lined their pockets. Then, you know, if you weren't on those coins, or you weren't sort of trading those, then, or if you've got really heavy bags in some of those, then you want to be assessing what you're going to do and how you're going to become profitable over the next little bit in the market. So 5 to 6 months still of this bear market. That doesn't mean we don't have bullish momentum happening, because we've just seen that. We've had some really nice profits. Now, if you are in getting started in crypto, I do have indicators that let us know. So we, at this point down here, when ETH hit and everyone was like, no, it's, you know, it's going down forever. And at this point here is when my indicator flashed and said, hey, this is a buy. And I remember putting this on X, and all you guys were like, no, I'm not buying there. Why would I buy there? Because had you bought there, you would have been 40% richer just in Ethereum. But most people trade Ethereum as like a leverage coin. So, you would have been trading up and down. So, but just holding Ethereum in those momentum changes. So if we go back here, sort of February to, say you sold around April. So you're holding that 2-3 months, you're making 40% profit. Indicator flashed as it crossed on the daily, so it's a daily signal that comes, and then we've gone back down. You've made 13% so far, so we're still showing bearish momentum on that indicator at the moment. That doesn't mean it won't change in the next little while, but if you're just trading one coin, like one of the large, like Bitcoin or Ethereum, and then that's all they move. So in 3 months, you've made 40%. In the next month after that, you've made another 13%. So in 4 months, you've made 50% profit. Massive. Go back and trade the traditionals, and you just don't get that money. You just don't get that money unless you invested early on AI, and that's one of those explosive ones. But majority of traditionals move 1-2% a week if you're lucky. So crypto is gradually becoming an asset that has less volatility. Doesn't look like it today, but that's kind of what is happening. So just be careful out there. Make sure you're taking profits. Make sure you're not giving it back to the market. And I will catch you next week, hopefully live, if Optus can fix my internet, but they haven't as yet. So this is recorded, and I will catch you on all the socials and daily inside gettingstartedincrypto.com. Thanks for watching.